Ever been stuck in a disagreement that feels like a never-ending maze? You're not alone. Conflict, in its simplest form, is a clash of interests, values, actions, or directions. It's that tension-filled moment when you and someone else just don't see eye to eye. And here's the kicker. It's inevitable. Yes, you heard that right. Conflict is a part of our lives, as inherent as breathing, sleeping, or eating. It's a natural outcome of our unique perspectives and experiences, and it can pop up anywhere, at home, at work, in friendships, or in relationships. But don't be disheartened just yet. Conflict isn't inherently a bad thing. In fact, it can lead to growth, innovation, and deeper understanding if handled correctly. It's not about avoiding conflict, but about learning to navigate it effectively. Conflict is a part of life, but how we navigate it can make a world of difference. So, you're in a conflict. What's next? Well, the first step is recognizing you're in a disagreement. It might sound simple, but it's crucial. Sometimes we can be so caught up in our own perspectives that we don't even realize there's a conflict brewing. You might notice a feeling of uneasiness, a sense of tension, or even just a gut feeling that something isn't right. That's your cue to take a step back and assess the situation. Next, it's time to understand the perspectives involved. Each person in a conflict has their own viewpoint, their own story, and their own feelings. It's not about deciding who's right or wrong, but about understanding where each person is coming from. This step requires a good deal of empathy and patience, as it can be challenging to see things from another person's perspective, especially when emotions are running high. Now, with an understanding of the different viewpoints, it's time to seek a resolution. This doesn't mean rushing to find a solution, but rather taking the time to explore various options and possibilities. It's about finding a way forward that respects the feelings and perspectives of everyone involved. Throughout this process, two key elements should always be present: listening and respect. Truly listening to what the other person has to say, rather than just waiting for your turn to speak, can open up new paths to resolution. And respect, even in disagreement, creates an environment where constructive dialogue can take place. And let's not forget, conflict isn't always a bad thing. In fact, it can often lead to personal growth and improved relationships. It's all about how you navigate it. Remember, understanding is the first step to resolution. Sometimes compromise seems like the best way out, but is it always? Let's delve into that question. Compromise, in its essence, is when two or more parties give up something to reach a common ground. It's often seen as a mature, reasonable way to resolve conflicts. For instance, let's say you and your friend disagree on vacation plans. You want a serene mountain retreat, they want a beach holiday. A compromise here could be spending half the vacation in the mountains and the other half at the beach. This way, both parties get a taste of what they want, and the conflict is resolved amicably. However, there are certain situations where compromise might not be the best route. Imagine you're part of a team at work and your colleagues want to cut corners on a project to meet the deadline, but you believe in quality over speed and worry that this could harm the company's reputation. Here, compromising toward cutting some corners could mean violating your professional ethics. The same applies to personal morals. If a friend asks you to lie for them, and lying goes against your core values, compromising toward a lie in this situation could leave you feeling uncomfortable. So how do we navigate these tricky waters? It's about understanding your non-negotiables. These are your core values and principles that guide your actions and decisions. It's about standing firm when these are threatened, even if it means not reaching an immediate resolution. Remember, it's okay to disagree and maintain your stance as long as you're respectful and open to dialogue. 2, there are times when there may not be a clear path to compromise at all. Let's imagine a situation where you are deciding on a new pet with your spouse. You want a cat and your spouse wants a dog. There is no combination of those. But you could weigh together what is best for your housing, lifestyle, and pocketbook. Maybe you opt to start with a somewhat smaller animal that lives in a cage or volunteer at the animal shelter. Or maybe you choose to delay the decision altogether and revisit it in the future. So, while compromise can often be a great tool for conflict resolution, it's not always the best or only approach. Think carefully and recognize when to hold your ground and when to give in. Remember, there's no one-size-fits-all solution to conflicts. It's a delicate dance, and the key is to find a balance that suits the situation and aligns with your values. Compromise can be key, but not at the cost of your values. What happens when authority comes into play in a conflict? This leads us directly to the core of power dynamics in conflict situations. In some instances, we find ourselves in a struggle where one party wields more authority than the other. How do we navigate this tricky scenario? When you're the one with the authority, bear this in mind. Some of the best leaders facilitate instead of dictate. Hear out your subordinates and understand their perspective. Foster a safe space where every voice is heard and respected. Promote communication and validate their concerns. Steer the conversation towards a resolution and express your viewpoint, but try not to enforce it using your power. Conversely, if you're in a conflict without authority, don't forget that your voice matters. Assert yourself respectfully. Be clear on your position and why you stand by it. There's a fine balance between being respectful and being passive. Tread on it cautiously. In all cases, the aim is to steer towards resolution, not victory. It's not a competition of who has the upper hand, but rather how we can solve the issue at hand while preserving respect and understanding. However, what if the someone starts to show passive-aggressive behavior? It's essential to remain calm and address their emotions without judgment. Allow them space to process their feelings. If you're the one displaying such behavior, take a step back and reflect. Remember, passive-aggressive behavior can damage relationships and obstruct conflict resolution. No one gets their way all the time, and there are sometimes constraints that affect what paths can be chosen. Look to be constructive in the conflict and view it as a chance to grow, to understand, and to strengthen relationships. Navigate these power dynamics with grace and empathy. Can everyone win in a conflict? It's possible. Now you might be wondering, how can that even be? Well, that's where the concept of a win-win resolution comes into play. Visualize a scenario where all parties involved in a conflict walk away satisfied, feeling their interests have been addressed. Sounds ideal, doesn't it? It's achievable sometimes. The secret to unlocking these win-win outcomes lies in empathy and creativity. By empathizing, we place ourselves in the other person's shoes, understanding their viewpoint, their needs, and their desires. This understanding assists in shaping solutions that satisfy everyone involved. Creativity can also play a role. Thinking outside the box can lead to innovative solutions that cater to everyone's interests. In fact, sometimes the conflict itself can lead to entirely new options that neither party initially considered. It opens avenues for fresh ideas and unexplored solutions that could be beneficial for all. So next time you find yourself in a conflict, aim for a win-win. It's not just possible, it's the road to harmony and mutual respect. Win-win solutions are about mutual gain, not necessarily compromise. What if we could prevent conflicts before they even start? It may seem like wishful thinking, but in reality, it's sometimes quite attainable. Ground rules and setting expectations serve as the foundation of this strategy. For example, imagine you're at a new job, and on your first day you're handed a guidebook document, a roadmap of sorts. It outlines the do's and don'ts, the expected conduct, and the consequences of straying. It works to prevent major conflicts by making sure everyone is on the same page from the start. Or imagine you have a new roommate moving in, 2 or more individuals, each with their own set of habits and preferences, sharing a space. It's a recipe for conflict unless, of course, you lay down some ground rules. Agreeing upon things like cleaning schedules, quiet hours, and guest policies can help avoid unnecessary friction and ensure a harmonious living situation. So, how do we communicate these expectations effectively? It's all about being clear, assertive, and open to negotiation. For instance, instead of saying, "I don't like it when you leave your dishes in the sink," try, "Could we agree to wash our dishes immediately after we use them?" It's direct, it's solution-focused, and it invites collaboration. Ground rules serve to create an environment where everyone knows what's expected of them, reducing the likelihood of misunderstandings and conflicts. But the key to effective ground rules is flexibility. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes rules need to be adjusted. So always keep the lines of communication open and be willing to revisit and revise as needed. Prevention is better than cure, especially when it comes to conflict. So, next time you find yourself in a new situation, take the lead. Set those expectations and ground rules, and watch as potential conflicts dissipate before they even have a chance to start. Conflict is a part of life, but it doesn't have to be a roadblock. It's a journey we all must take, and one that can lead to personal growth and better understanding if navigated wisely. We've learned the nature of conflict, reviewing a few considerations and tools for handling it. Remember, navigating conflict is about understanding, respect, and effective communication. Happy navigating!